I am back. It's been a little bit. But I have had a busy week. So, haven't had a whole lot of time to where I feel like I can stream and have like a good stream of stuff to talk about. Uh, I'm gonna be holding the controller a little bit different today. Random thing to mention. That is because my cat is currently sitting on my lap. If I bring the camera, there she is. Hello. Say hi to the camera, Squeaker. Yeah, look at that. You guys get an exclusive look at my cat. Yeah? Sniff that. Yeah, okay. Here you go. Put that back up on the monitor. Here we go. Yeah, hi. Nice kitty. Good kitty. Ah, okay. Alright. For some reason, occasionally throughout the day, Siri notifies me that you exist for some reason. Really? Oh, well, Squeaker is no longer on my lap. Great. Okay, so I can just hold the controller normally. Sick. Well, I imagine this time that you got the notification because I had gone live, but yeah, if you're getting notifications outside of me going live, I don't know what that's about. How was your day in the last days of liberalism? The past few days have been all right for me. I'm here to actually talk about some of the recent developments in the upcoming or what will be the incoming Trump administration, the second Trump administration, uh, and also some other stuff also as well. You hear what Elon Musk named his thing? Yeah, we all know about. I guess I can start talking about the Department of Governmental Efficiency, aka Doge, because he's fucking stuck in 2010 or whatever. Let's see, retro rewind announcements. Any updates? Not an update. Okay. All right. Looks like there's no updates, so we're good. The Department of Governmental Efficiency does not exist yet, and it is also not a real government department. Uh, Donald Trump did something that was actually really funny, um, because he really does not like Elon Musk. So what he did was he treated Elon Musk like the fucking annoying little brother that he is. He gave him he basically created Doge, but as an NGO. The Department of Government Efficiency for from Elon Musk doesn't actually have any power to do anything. It is a non-governmental uh, organization. So basically, he gave him the unplugged controller and said, "Here, you're helping," which is great, and I love that. Why didn't he dump him when he won the election? Trump, as far as I know, there are minds within the Republican Party that will, to some degree, find it beneficial to keep Elon Musk around, because he is part of the capital class. Trump is also part of that capital class. It is in their class interest to work together, however much they hate each other. And in fact, there's one reason or another behind Trump not completely casting out Elon, although insofar as that's concerned, giving him the Department of Government Efficiency, which is not a real department in government and doesn't have any power, is basically him, like, promoting him into irrelevancy, is the best way that I can put that. You know? Neko arc. Nice. And of course, all of the spending cuts that have been proposed either by that or like, have you heard of the person that shot their dog? Ah, yes, Kristi Noem. She's going to be the other head of that department. Yeah, that was a big story back in the campaign where Kristi Noem was one of the early candidates to be Trump's vice presidential pick, but it recently got uncovered that she shot and killed a puppy for like, I don't know, not doing what she told it to or something like that. It was like, it was some actually insane shit where it was like, oh yeah, the puppy was too rowdy and we couldn't get it under control. So we just shot it. Like, killed it. And in retrospect, I feel like she would have been fine as the Republican VP. We saw how little of a shit people gave about JD Vance and how, like, how much the Democrats didn't say anything about you know, campaign. Oh, wait, can you guys not see? Oh, no, you can't see. Okay. We're good. Whew. Yeah, it's like shooting a child from not sitting in the corner, which, to be fair, they do probably hit their kids. You can see the game? Okay, sick. There was a delay on stream, so about the time that the race was starting, I looked over at Twitch and saw a black screen, but I should have just trusted the OBS feed. I'm silly like that. Dang. Yeah, so that has been one significant development, which is that Elon Musk is like Trump is gonna give him access to like pretend levers of power, but not really, you know, which is, well, on one level, I'm tempted to say that's a relief, but we know that Elon Musk is still filthy fucking rich, and he's gonna have a lot of influence in government purely by virtue of him having a lot of money and being a business owner, because that's, you know, he's had that kind of influence for more than a decade at this point in the government, and he's actually used that to torpedo a lot of sustainable infrastructure projects like high-speed rail, or just rail in general. Yeah, money is power, and Elon Musk still does have money. So he still has power. Oh, I got somebody. But on a similar ideological note to them doing the whole Doge bit, they have been proposing, the Republicans have been proposing a lot of, or pitching a lot of spending cuts to the federal government, cutting a lot of departments and whatnot. This most closely mirrors Javier Milei's presidential administration and tenure in Argentina, because he sort of ran on the, you know, that platform. Everybody knows the video where he's at the whiteboard and he's like, Department of such and such, afuera! Department of such and such, afuera! Department of such and such, afuera! You know, he just says afuera over and over again as he's like peeling departments off of the whiteboard. And we saw what that did to Argentina. The poverty rate in Argentina is almost 60% at a 20-year high. Things are historically bad in Argentina, and the hollowing out of departments in America would be an order of magnitude worse. You know, departments in Argentina are essential to the functioning of government there, but the United States is so much wealthier and more powerful that our departments, our government departments, reflect that. The bureaucracy of the social state reflects that. And so when that is gone, the United States is gone. They even laughing at science now? Yes, I did see that. One of the things that they highlighted that they wanted to cut was government spending and subsidies for scientific research. And they highlighted it, you know, Fox News, of course, had a field day highlighting things that on their surface sounded, you know, ridiculous, but that's only to people who only have 1/4 of a brain and are incapable of thinking on their own for about 3 seconds at a time. Even the most ridiculous research sounds like, that sounds like garbage, is actually extremely useful to us. For example, one of the things that they were laughing at was like, it was a study about the reproductive habits or the reproductive tendencies of certain species of insects, right? And the price tag for that was like abysmally small given the US government. It was like a couple $100,000. But the importance of that research is that by studying those habits, by studying the ways that insects that live in the crop fields live and coexist with each other, we've actually been able to significantly increase crop yields. The food industry and the production cycle and distribution cycle of food in this country directly benefits from the study of the sexual reproduction tendencies of insects like cockroaches. Like there's a direct line. They're trying to build a culture of morons. Yeah, and I don't think it's even a project of trying to build that culture so much as it is trying to entrench and capitalize off of it. They've already built that environment, right? Because people watch Fox News and are completely taken in by it. You know, that rhetoric is effective for some people. And now what they're trying to do is they're trying to make good on that environment that they've created, where they're trying to basically instill such a current of anti-intellectualism in the population that they're able to just completely burn the bridge of progress behind them and keep all of the riches for themselves. The folks at Fox News and all the other, right-wing media outlets, the people that are part of the capital class that support the right. They're trying to basically pull up the bridge behind them, leave everybody else out to dry, and even though they know they will suffer, they're prepared to just walk away with the relative profit that they would have acquired, because make no mistake, the lack of government funding for scientific research will make life worse in every way for everyone. However, the poor and proletarianized classes will be worse off for that than the wealthy classes will be. There is a relative profit where things will get worse for everybody, but they'll get a lot worse for poor people than they will for wealthy people. This is why I say don't believe in common sense. Yeah, and I really don't either. Common sense is a really brainless, it is literally a thought-terminating cliche to appeal to an imagined sense of, like, moral realism, And Republicans will still say you don't have a study for that. They're beyond that point at this point. Republicans are way beyond, like, oh, do you have a study for that? Like, they don't care. They won't even say that anymore because they balk in disgust at the concept of science. They project onto the scientific method and the scientific process the cultish aspects of life which they themselves are guilty of. That the capital class has cultivated, that the Republican elite have cultivated. Have you seen their plan for permanent martial law? No, but I don't doubt that it exists and it's gonna suck. The whole last days of liberalism bit is not a joke. Liberalism is a dead ideology. I think the excuse in the beginning is going to be the immigrants. Yeah, and that's going to be their big project. The Trump administration has highlighted, or not the Trump administration, the soon-to-be Trump administration has highlighted that immigrants are going to be the name of the game once they're in office. And they are intent on pursuing that platform of, like, deporting millions of people. And they've been even asked straightforwardly up front, like, hey, you say you have this plan to deport a bunch of illegal immigrants. how would this affect people in mixed immigration households? Like, this would separate a lot of families, right? You know, how do you plan to address that? And I believe this was the soon to be like chief of ICE or something, basically said, oh, that's easy, we'll just deport the families too. You know, the families being legal immigrants, green card holders, and American citizens, right? Like, we'll just deport everybody. You know, so they're just evil maxing is what they're doing. And I can really only see that leading one place, and that's death camps, right? Many people might not know, because I didn't learn this in school. I only learned this later. The initial plan for the Nazis to settle what they refer to as the Jewish question was to mass deport Jewish people out of Germany, right? But such a process proved to be extremely logistically difficult. You know, it's actually hard to deport millions of people, and it costs a fuck ton of money, so much so that it would actually destroy the entire country's economy because of the cost of transit, relocation, whatever and whatever. So they just decided, well, we've rounded them all up for the purpose of deporting them. Why don't we just kill them? You know, it's not like, you know, the Nazis not known for viewing Jewish people as human beings, of course. So they went from their initial plan of deport all of them to kill all of them, because killing all of them was cheaper, and they just wanted to get rid of them. You know? And that's exactly what's going to happen with immigrants in the United States, is that, you know, the Trump administration, when they find out inevitably that it will be prohibitively expensive on the part of the U.S. government even to actually deport millions upon millions of people, they'll just construct concentration camps and start killing them en masse. Unless some unforeseen obstacle stops them from doing so. But honestly, you know, it's kind of disturbing to say, but I think there have been some very similar ideologies and viewpoints cultivated among the American public that immigrants aren't people, in a similar fashion to how in Germany, they would view Jews as very, like, intrinsically other, you know? I don't know if that's the actual plan. Like, I don't know if they were planning to do that all along. I think what's more likely is that they just don't care whether it's shipping them off to a random other country or killing them in a death camp. They just want to, like, subject them to immense suffering and get them out of the American polity. So they're going to end up there, is what I'm saying, as a consequence of their own ideology. How well do you think they'll be able to hide it? Not very well. The Holocaust was not well hidden from the general public. The problem was that a lot of the German public was actually okay with it. A lot of the German public supported the Holocaust, even after the Nuremberg trials. And I feel like a lot of the American public, a large section of it, certainly not a majority, but a large section of it, would agree with a plan to mass slaughter immigrants. And a lot of namby-pamby liberals would sort of idly fret at the concept, but wouldn't really do anything unless there's a sufficient push to mobilize them in that direction, you know? What do you think the excuse would be for Republicans in that situation? I genuinely don't know if they would have to try that hard to come up with one. How can Democrats do anything? They have no more power. I mean, we just have to... we just have to see. Like you said, Democrats don't have any power anymore. They, you know, and when they do have power, they voluntarily restrict themselves from using it. You know, we've seen the kind of stuff that Democrats do to cook up excuses not to pass legislation when they have a majority in the Senate. You know, there probably all too content to not do anything when they don't have a majority. You know, when the Democrats do have power, they are adamant that they don't. And when they don't have power, they don't need to pretend. That was the greatest sand hop shortcut of all time. I'm taking really bizarre lines, but it's working out, kind of. Do you see why Vosh calls Democrats bottoms? Yeah, because they're bottom bitches. You know? It's that dynamic where both Democrats and Republicans are the party of the capital class. They are both parties of the capital class, but because the action of the Republicans doesn't necessarily offend the capital class if they were to, you know, take a populist bend to them, and the Democrats do necessarily, like, you know, run like less in tune with the capital class than the Republicans, then the capital class is going to be much more active, tugging on the Democrats' leash. That the reason that the Democrats haven't done anything is because it would be bad for it. It could potentially empower labor more than businesses are comfortable with. And to that effect, they have to cultivate nominally pro-labor politicians that are weak enough that they just won't do anything voluntarily. And meanwhile, the Republicans going fully into Nazism is perfectly fine with the business interests. You know, their position as the superior class in the dialectic relationship is not threatened by the Republicans. And it's not necessarily threatened by the Democrats either, but it's not as protected, if that makes sense. Recently, I've been watching Republican reaction to news to see what their normal voters think. Yeah, I guess that could be useful in a sense to see the kind of slop that people on the right are gonna. Well, I guess in that case you might not even need that because everybody on the right sounds exactly the same anyway. Anyways, yeah. And that reminds me as well. You know, the liberal news media have been kind of in a frenzy to explain or justify like why the Democrats lost the election. A lot of people have been reaching for explanations, but I feel like the liberal news media is having an identity crisis. Many people have commented on it to that effect. Where that, like, they're almost not sure if they should continue riding with the capital class, in which case they will go the way of CNN. Complete irrelevancy as the sort of boilerplate centrist media outlet that has to both sides everything and inevitably just cedes ground further and further right. Or to admit that Bernie Sanders was right the whole fucking time and to, like, finally embrace populism, right? In which case you actually do risk upsetting the capital class that drives the editorial decision-making at these news outlets. And I've seen some absolutely rancid takes from mainstream liberals over this election, you know, including such post-election takes as, oh, thank God, they nominated somebody reasonable for the Department of State. Marco Rubio. Like, fucking, the Democrats, it seems, at large, some of them are coming to, I think, correct realizations that, shit, Bernie Sanders was right, and we need to, like, we need to embrace populism, you know, left populism, socialism, right? But most of the like big heads at the Democratic Party are going the way of, like, we need to become even more the party of Liz Cheney. We need to become even more neoconservative, to such an extent that they are, like, doubling down on the civility angle and doubling down on saying that progressives were wrong and cost us the election, even though objectively the Dems being centrist cost them the election. You can look at down ballot measures for progressive policy prescriptions like minimum wage protections and abortion protections, and those policy packages, those ballot measures, won big. They outperformed the Democratic Party in every state where they were on the ballot. The Democratic Party's politics of centrist liberalism, of civility politics, is toxic. The Democratic Party is toxic in politics. People love the left populism and a left-leaning platform, but they won't vote for it if it has a D next to its name. Bernie Sanders, while he works with the Democrats, is an independent. He has an I next to his name. And the abortion referendums, the minimum wage referendums, there's no D or R next to the names of either of those. So people feel less of the baggage. They can just consider them straight up. Meanwhile, the Democrats, rightly having cultivated a very toxic set of political baggage, are like loaded down with being so dishonest that any good sounding promise that they make is liable to be A, discarded entirely from the minds of the voters just straight up because they're not going to deliver it on it anyways, or B, lambasted by the right-wing, media machine, a la consent manufacturing, right? And that's the direction that the Democratic Party's decided to stick with, the direction that has alienated everybody because they don't want to win. And they don't care about winning. If their objective was winning, they would be a socialist party. But their objective is not winning. Their objective is centrist liberalism. And so they will sacrifice a victory. They will sacrifice a political victory to maintain that. And they will even alter their political platform in ways that will sort of pacify people's demands. They'll try to, they are truly like a snake in the grass. They will adopt any position that does not require them to challenge their ideological priors. No matter how blatantly out of step with reality it is, even if it alienates 10 million people in their voter base, right? The Republicans don't have this problem. The Republicans were all too willing to listen to their own base. Yeah, when you try to be a centrist, that doesn't mean that everybody likes you. It means nobody likes you because you come off as entirely dishonest. The political, the Overton window shifts. Being a centrist, almost by definition, means that you do not have a consistent set of philosophical prescriptions. It means you don't actually believe in anything and you just want to appear like moderate and inoffensive. But by doing so, you actually appear as more offensive because you're like blatantly lying about what you believe because you don't believe anything. And sorry to bring it all back, that's what we've seen in a lot of liberal news media outlets is that the Democratic Party, irrespective of what any given news media outlet or pundit decides to do, the Democrats are going to retreat even further into that mentality, and that is going to be the death of them. And at this point, I am beyond trying to reform the Democratic Party. I think it's best if they just disappear and let something better take their place. It's not like they're going to be a meaningful opposition to the Republicans either way. Need an item. Whoa, okay. Weird bounce. Yesterday I saw the clip of your body. My choice was really disgusting. Yeah, well, Nick Fuentes, I think, is going to have some assault charges pressed against him, so that'll be a nice silver lining for that. He just, pepper sprayed a lady that came to his door for zero reason at all. Yes, hi, Squeaker. My cat has returned. Oh no. Maybe Donald Trump will pardon him? Maybe. I mean, they did have dinner one time. Hi. It's funny how disillusioned Republicans are, where they think the next 4 years is going to be like paradise. Well, people are stupid. The American voters are stupid, you know? Republicans especially, but that is an environment of cultivated stupidity, you know? And that's not by accident. It's not sheer coincidence that a lot of Americans are stupid. It's been drilled into them over time. And there's been no opposition in the media climate to push in the other direction. And once they realize, they blame Democrats again. And that, you know, that's kind of why I want the Democrats to disappear. When the Democrats are gone, that toxic political baggage just exists without anything to be attached to. So they're going to have to pin something for their troubles. And they can't blame the Democratic Party if the Democratic Party doesn't exist. You know? Sure, the right-wing media machine is going to try to find another scapegoat. But the Democratic Party actually acted... I think with the Democratic Party gone, we're actually going to see more meaningful media opposition to the Fox Newses of the world, and not less. Because the Democratic Party was, you know, their primary job was to stifle leftward movement. You know, that's what they were most active about, you know? It's the classic ratchet effect for you. You heard that he's trying to put Bibles in schools. Yes, I have heard that. That is a blatantly unconstitutional thing. Like if we're adopting a more like mainstream liberal legalistic perspective, you know, blatantly against the Constitution, establishment of religion, etc., etc. That is, you know, that would be a state preference for one religion over others. But you know, the Supreme Court is going to probably just rule that it's fine, actually. So. You know, the Constitution doesn't matter, the law doesn't matter, and in fact, moves like that prove it. The system in which we live has grown so stagnant that even the most flagrant violation of the most basic laws will go unpunished if it is politicians violating those laws, and if it is the wealthy and the capital class violating those laws. Got him. Donald Trump is, like, solely responsible for a lot of that, but not like, not in the way that a lot of liberals would say, right? Donald Trump being the president bears a lot of responsibility for that. He just opened the doors for the entire Republican Party, you know? Those doors wouldn't have remained closed for long, to continue with that proverbial language. Only for America, but for other countries. Yeah, it's going to be bad. The hollowing out of the public school system, the hollowing out of immigration numbers, the hollowing out of the social state and the social safety net, whatever's left of it, is going to send America into the depths of economic depression, and it's going to take the entire rest of the world with it, because the rest of the world depends on us. The economy. Yeah. Everyone will blame America, and then we'll say everyone's turning on us. Yeah, something like that. My cat is sitting on my lap, and she demands to be pet and scratched. But I can't do that all the time. I'm playing the game, Squeaker. I'm live streaming. Bet people in China were like, yes, I'll become the #1 power now. Maybe. It's hard. It's honestly, it's hard to say who will emerge the #1 power after this, because of the kind of power vacuum that America is going to leave behind. You know, the power in a 21st century like globalized economy is largely that of corporations and like whatever nation state they're attached to. It like, I know this is like sounds really basic, but it like, it gets so the way in which power promulgates on the world stage is so complicated and gets so complicated so quick that I actually don't know if it's going to be China or somebody else that assumes the role of like global hegemon once America is no longer in the picture, or if there isn't an immediate global hegemon and things remain pretty chaotic for a while, or if there, you know, is a new global hegemon that doesn't answer to any nation state. If the corporations that you know, if the capital class so nakedly discards the illusion of like using a nation state as a vessel for their interest, that they don't need one. You know, like one of the big things about globalized capitalism is that it's not like imperial capitalism. It used to be reliably in the imperial core there was markedly less exploitation than in the imperial periphery. You know, that like the third world and the first world are distinctions that live and die along those lines. But with globalization and the hollowing out of labor protections in what would, you know, what was previously known as the first world, those divides between like the exploiter and exploited countries is starting to narrow in a way that makes me think that like maybe you just have like fucking the Patriots from Metal Gear, and every country is like a homogenous dystopian soup controlled by the Patriots, who are completely amorphous and like don't know any borders. Because the capital class already basically isn't restricted by any sort of borders or nation-state level organizations. I swear, after this disaster, if liberalism survives, I'm gonna lose it. Liberalism is not gonna survive, because liberalism is going to turn into fascism, and fascism cannot survive. In the good news, in the Great Depression, they may get a chance to escape the exploited countries. I wouldn't bet on that. If anything, a worldwide depression is likely to generate a lot of political unrest, and that's likely to threaten the position of the capital class. Hey, Squeaker. No. Yeah? We're in the fucking Metal Gear timeline now. Speaking of real good news, though, you see the Onion bought InfoWars? That shit is going to be a treat to watch unfold, for sure. Reality sounds like fiction right now. Dealing with strongest humanities ever seen. What is the Onion? The Onion is a satire newspaper. It is very left leaning. And it's like the most famous political satire journal in America. And it has actually recently adopted a lot of markers that make myself and most other people on the left think that it's like basically a partisan socialist satire paper now, which is great because it's like you know, almost like the perfect answer for, well, for some stuff. And InfoWars was Alex Jones like conspiracy crank bullshit. And so now he has to live with the knowledge that like a bunch of silly lefties bought his news org. Got him. Turnabout's fair play. Okay. Sorry, Neko Arc. You know, I had to do it to him. Ow. Seen the comic that person made? Roadkill, I think their name is? I have not. Yeah, let me see if I can't find details here. Onion buys Hogwarts. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Alex Jones. Okay. Alex Jones was most infamous recently for promulgating a conspiracy theory about the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, that like it didn't happen and all the kids and families were paid actors. They were like crisis actors or whatever, and it ended up being a giant harassment campaign to the families of dead children from right-wing crazies that like were telling them your kid's not dead, and like sending them death threats and whatever, you know, just the scum of the earth, you know, this guy. And he got taken to court over this by a lot of the families, and he lost a lot of fucking money in that court hearing because there were a lot of damages to be paid out. And InfoWars and Alex Jones went bankrupt over this. Several hearings later, InfoWars officially filed for bankruptcy and was sold at an auction. Who else fucking bought InfoWars at auction than The Onion? the fucking most famous satire newspaper in America, self-proclaimedly the only news that you can trust. Thank you, Onion. Very cool. And Alex Jones was like freaking out about it live on air. But like, dog, you declared bankruptcy. Like, that shit's gone. It's not yours anymore. You know, it's fair game. His ass is not layers pilled. Onions have layers. And so now, like, everybody's kind of speculating because InfoWars had a pretty big following and whatnot. Like, and not just in terms of platform, but in terms of notoriety, like raw notoriety. People are speculating that like InfoWars could actually mean something significant for like the left's ability to hold ground in the media space without the support of private capital. Like extremely funny turn of events regardless, which I think is the most important thing, just that it is super fucking funny that The Onion bought InfoWars. But now instead, like, I think now it opens up the possibility, to me at least, of like a new brand of satire and like political comedy, because InfoWars already kind of sounded like a self-parody, and so now they've been freed from the shackles of right-wing mental retardation, and they'll be able to just go full tilt with the like self-parody stuff, you know, and with like but just with the awareness that, like, yeah, this isn't real news coverage or anything. This is satire. Yeah, the Onion was like, thank you for giving me the golden opportunity, you know? One of the few instances where it's like, oh, they have the opportunity to do the funniest thing possible, and then they did the funniest thing possible. Biggest smile when they saw this possibility? Yeah, they turned into Jerma with the sus smile. I turned into Jerma. The Onion buys Alex Jones Infowars with help from Sandy Hook family's backing. Nice. You heard of Donald Trump's plans for the news? Yes, that he intends to revoke a bunch of press passes. That's right. Yeah, expect, maybe not on day one, but expect pretty soon after the beginning of the next administration, the press briefing room to be filled with the likes of Fox News, One America News, Newsmax, Real America's Voice, or something like that. Like, whatever the fuck right-wing hackery exists in the media space. Says Dane 1, I'm going for the internet. Well, I guess then Steven Crowder's going to be there or something, too. Ain't that peachy. But yeah, outlets like NBC and ABC and CBS and CNN, like any outlets that were remotely critical of Trump in years prior, there's going to be like they're going to get picked off, in the sense that either they're going to get their press passes revoked or they're going to fall in line, and basically through the use of state like soft power, they're going to just become another one of those right-wing media hacks. Do you think the internet will try to retreat from America? No. America is too big of a country with too much capital for the internet to be locked off from here. That's not to say there won't be some kind of censorship. There might be. But America will still have internet access. Like, you know, let's not be ridiculous in ways that don't make sense. You know, like, even in like, the only place in the world that doesn't really have internet access to the broader internet is fucking North Korea. And even they have their own version of the internet, heavily censored and protected by certain, like, censorious guardrails, you know? China also has access to the internet. Hell, they have access to most of the same resources that people in the West do. They just have the Great Firewall of China, where they, you know, again, a lot of censorship, but internet is still the internet. They can see stuff from the West. Even, you know, whatever censorship occurs in America is not going to be enough to completely lock the internet out of the United States. In fact, fascists are reliably incompetent enough that I don't know if they're going to really be able to, like, consistently implement censorious measures like that. Because some of the stuff that fascists want to do is so blatantly unfeasible that, like, it wouldn't get passed. Or even if it did get passed, it would be unenforceable. Like a pornography ban. Like, have fun regulating everybody using a fucking VPN that is headquartered in a different country. Like, you know, great. If you did all of them, they wouldn't have the money to do it. Well, it's also there is no like actual boundary. There's no actual method by which you can ban a lot of this stuff. Like, there's the Supreme Court, their infamous Supreme Court case about how do you define pornography. How would you go about shutting down every single website that contains in it pornography? Like, where do you draw that line? Like, you literally can't. What else did I see? Oh yeah, the communism showed up because of porn bans. I think that's one area that the Republicans will have some difficulty in. And yes, that would be incredibly funny. I don't think it's gonna happen, but it'd be funny. Yes, hi Squeaker. Sorry, it's Squeaker. I can't right now. Okay. Yeah, I know, Squeaker. I can't right now. All right, I'm streaming. I know, Kitty. After this race, I might go and let my cat outside because she's talking to me, and you might be able to see her in the camera. No, a couple things went wrong there. I used the mushroom a bit too early, and the game ate my jump input. I don't know if you saw that, like, my wheelie just dropped before the edge for some reason. Alright. That worked out. Unorthodox use of the mushroom, but it did gain me some ground. There we go. Okay, finally. I'm going to try to hold this mushroom, even though I'm very aware there could be a shock. Still recommend Captain Laserhawk, and I'm still probably not going to watch it. I'm sorry to say, I'm just not that interested in that sort of stuff. I usually like to cultivate my own media repertoire free of recommendations. No mushroom, so I have to take the long way around. Ah. Yeah. There we go. Squeaker. She's got airplane ears right now. Squeaker? Yeah, hey. What is this lag switch? All right, I'm leaving this room. You think America will have a ban on any show the president doesn't like? Let's not piss our pants like liberals here, right? Things don't instantly turn into 1984 when Trump takes power. There are a lot of processes that take time for that to happen. And no, I actually don't I don't think that you get outright media bans on like TV and movies. Although there's already some censorious stuff in Hollywood as to what even gets produced. So in a way that already exists, but I don't think it's going to be like... I don't think that America banning any show the president doesn't like is going to be what the next 4 years or 8 years or however long the Republicans are in power actually looks like. Because that's not what any dictatorial regime actually looks like. It always gets a bit more complicated than that. Anyways, let me pull up this. Sure. Look at her. She wants to go outside. I'll be back in just a second. Alright, isn't that right? Okay. All right. Nice. Much better. Whew. In fact, I want to highlight a way in which there's kind of a limit to how fascist America can get. There is, like, I don't want to mince words here. Things are going to get catastrophically bad. But there's a limit to how overtly Hitlerite the Republicans can actually be, because there's a very entrenched degree of social progressivism in America that it is very difficult for a top-down movement such as a fascist movement to uproot. You know? Fascism exists, like I said, as a top-down movement. They have no ground game, they have no long-standing cultural presence at the local level. It's all astroturfed by private capital. You know, it's all like federal politicians and business people and sometimes small business owners as well. But the average person, like, it's not the ideology of like mass casual belief. You know, the casual belief of a lot of Americans is actually pretty progressive. I mentioned earlier, and I've mentioned a couple times, but I want to take a look at this. Abortion ballot measures and minimum wage ballot measures and labor protective ballot measures won big. Here, hold on. Abortion ballot measures 2024. Let's take a look. Abortion, immigration, and what exactly? Yeah, let's look at this. Arizona, state that went red, enshrined the right to abortion in its state constitution. Constitutional protections for the right to abortion. Passed by a 61 to 38% margin. Colorado, right to abortion and health insurance coverage. 62 to 38% margin. Passed. Florida got voted down by 57 to 42% because country's dumb as fuck. But, like, even in every state, even the ones that experience this massive red shift, rights to abortion and rights to certain healthcare, with the exception of South Dakota, I'm looking here. That's the one state. Passed these very progressive ballot measures because there wasn't a D next to them. Apparently, Idaho didn't have a citizenship requirement to vote, which is pretty funny because they passed that as a referendum. Most states did not pass ranked choice voting. Let's see, Citizens Redistricting Commission. No, that didn't pass. What about, were there any wage-related ones? Minimum wage. Alaska, increased minimum wage and paid sick leave. Passed by 57 to 43. And of course, California voted down its minimum wage bill. But you see what I'm saying here, that at the sort of grassroots level, in the sort of casual lexicon of Americans, people are, relatively speaking, pretty progressive, at least relative to a lot of people in that like what you would believe if you strictly listen to something like Fox News and watch the national election coverage for like federal elections, right? And yes, that a lot of this is because Americans broadly are not consistent ideologically. Most people aren't. But the point is that social progressivism exists. And for a fascist movement that has expressed over and over again that they want to get rid of that social progressivism, it's going to be very difficult. When ballot measures like protecting the right to abortion at a constitutional level, at the most basic ground level in the law, passes by a very wide margin, then like you can't really approach that as saying like we want to ban this. Like people just won't go for it. And that is, I think, going to be the main obstacle to fascism in the United States. It's not going to be the Democrats. It's not going to be that kind of liberal, performative, take a knee sort of opposition that basically takes the wind out of the sails of real grassroots organizing. It is going to be the small ballot measures that make it like excruciatingly difficult on the part of the fascists to make life worse, because the people have already resolved to make life better. And quite frankly, the United States will never be the kind of fascist where you can just throw out the kind like the election results that are so obviously valid. If you look at a fascist state like Russia with Vladimir Putin, and they can just blatantly make up election numbers, like the whole meme about, wow, 99% of the votes for Vladimir Putin. He's so popular. Wow. The fascists in America can't do that. They don't have the sauce. They can't get away with it. That is the one thing that might actually upset people. Those previous movements will help us more than we realize. Yes, every social and cultural victory that we have achieved at the ballot box has been in spite of the Democratic Party. It has been in spite of the top-down structures that claim to represent these values, and it is because of the grassroots movements that were organized around these principles. Because of NGOs that have various local chapters like Planned Parenthood, because of the local campaigns to say, hey, protect abortion rights. This is a like banal and normal health procedure that a woman should have the right to, like, basically to have her own sex life and not be forced to carry every single zygote to term, And people, like I said, they go for that. They don't go for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party does its best to make every position sound as unpalatable as possible. Because they fucking suck. Yeah, Alaska passed theirs. And Missouri passed a minimum wage and earned paid sick time ballot measure. And because they were passed by direct ballot measure, that's going to be really, really hard for fascist operatives to overturn. Because, like I said, it is almost impossible for something that is entrenched at the grassroots level to be uprooted by a very top-down structure that has no existence at the grassroots. I voted for the minimum wage increase? Nice. You'll love to see it. Now, there were a number of states where the minimum wage referendums didn't pass, and I think that's because the minimum wage is one of those things that there's a much more active media campaign against on the part of the Republicans, which is a way in which they can attempt to influence the grassroots level. But with abortion, it's one of those things that even the Republican Party can't touch anymore because they're the dog that caught the car. Yeah, another contradiction. We want more money, but we don't want more minimum wage. Yeah. It would be really something. I'd be willing to bet if there was a ballot referendum in a number of very deep red states that people organize at the local level to say, hey, protect union rights, protect the right to organize in your workplace, with your colleagues to demand better pay and conditions, I bet that would pass with flying colors to such an extent, and like you would be able to see that coming to such an extent that a lot of the media cycle leading up to it would be Republicans trying to figure out a way to sabotage the referendum, to introduce really confusing language, to introduce something that makes it not legally binding or something like that. Because we saw actually the same thing with issues as ubiquitous as something like abortion in a number of states in years past where these referendums were being considered. The Republican Party would actually try to subvert the ballot process by doing those exact things that I mentioned, by introducing really confusing verbiage, language, and naming conventions, by like trying to introduce provisions that would make a 50% plus one vote total insufficient for a measure to pass. It should try to make these things like not legally binding so that even if they pass, they wouldn't mean anything. They really, really don't want these to pass, but they know that there's not that much that they can do. Like 50% of votes is 50% of votes. And you know, so they have to try to find a different way to deal with it. That's where our victories are going to be, I think. Our strategy should be no party. Yes, in the interim, it should be. Now, obviously, you know, when it comes time to vote, and there are officials, there are candidates from either party, you should still vote for whichever party is the lesser evil and is the most likely to win, because all likelihood we're dealing with a first past the post voting system still. But myself and every other leftist online will tell you that is not where the bulk of political organization lies. That's not where the bulk of the political work is to be done. Cultivating social connections is probably like, it is the most difficult and yet at the same time the most important part of political organizing. You know? I hate whoever got the idea that voting is everything. It is a very liberal idea because liberals are content and wish to market the idea that democracy only exists at the ballot box. That every aspect of democracy is that which can be condensed to the ballot box. It is not. And that is the same idea that has ultimately condemned democracy to its fate, because in saying that voting is the most important, it is everything, it is like the end-all be-all of political engagement and, you know, the object around which all political organizing takes place, they have effectively put a blinder on everybody's eyes, the liberals have, for the rest of political life, over all of the other aspects of political engagement in your community that do not occur strictly at the ballot box, you know? And that is part of how things got as bad as they are, is because liberals turned everybody's attention away from everything else and strictly towards the ballot box. Things got worse and worse and worse before we even got to see those results reflected at the ballot box. You know? Have a preferred term. Think he's going to die before that happens. It is possible that Trump dies while he's in office, in which case J.D. Vance takes over, the absolute fucking fascist technocrat ghoul that he is. You know, in which case, God help us all, but maybe he's enough of a charisma vacuum that fucking, you know, maybe. I don't know. Look, again, this is kind of like for the future stuff. And I'm not, you guys know from my track record, and in some ways I'm not great at predicting the future, so I don't want to hinge too much on that. But I can like analyze the past, and I can talk about what I think matters right now. And what I think matters is those like local level and regional direct ballot referendums by which the popular vote one-to-one influences policy. Yeah, if you want to look at the strategies that fail, take your lessons from liberals. Do you have any just to talk about so we don't just spend go in circles like we did in the past live streams? Well, I wanted to talk about those ballot measures were one thing that I wanted to talk about as like the big silver lining to the recent elections. But then apart from that, a lot of the stuff that I had to talk about revolves around like the duplicity of the liberal and how they doomed us to this fate. The next thing I was going to talk about was how Joe Biden like dropped the mask on the genocide and like basically admitted like, yeah, we never intended to hold Israel to account on anything. But I don't think that's worth going into a whole segment over because we kind of knew that that's what that was already. So, and you know, maybe I'll make that a segment about the ballot measures because that is like that is the grassroots. Stay appraised of your local politics, folks. You know? Might just save your skin for a little while. You think they'll try to do another Red Scare? Maybe, but I don't know how successful they'll be. You know? In the days of the Cold War proper, the Soviet Union was a very convenient big bad. Because they were doing horrible things, and they did so while repping the aesthetics and name of socialism. But they don't really have that this time around, you know? Like, nobody cares about China. Like, a lot of people are really fucking racist against Chinese people, and some of them will, like, hate China, but I don't think people genuinely... I really don't think the climate is actually there to have a Cold War level Red Scare with China the way that America did with the USSR back in the day. You know? Anyways, future me with the segment about ballot referendums and stuff. Cut it there. And that's one of the, I think, the most important things that we should be taking from recent events. That was a good POW. I'm a genius. Never mind, I'm an idiot. Never mind, I'm a genius again? So from 100 to 0 back to 100 in record time? Nobody can believe this? Feel bad for any young straight women in the dating market? I do, as well. I really do. First of all, skill issue because they're straight. But second of all, and more importantly, I feel so fucking bad for them because straight guys are horrible. Straight women, I am praying that you find a nice bisexual boyfriend. But yeah, holy shit, the straights are not okay. Being bisexual is based? You know it, baby. I love that shit. Because if anything, it just means that people are way more honest about their own sexual preferences and more introspective about what they like about other people and are more inclined to see other people as people, right? With straight people, it feels like they're genuinely like don't view the other sex as human in the case of guys, or just don't like each other in either case. Like, straight people fucking hate each other, dude. Like, you ever seen a straight relationship? They don't talk to each other. And when I say straight relationship, I don't mean like one of them is bi and the other one is straight. I mean like they are both heterosexual and they're in a heterosexual relationship. Rancid vibes. Absolutely rancid. You know? If I was in the dating market, they would have to be queer. Unironically true. If I ever go back to Tinder, I actually might go into the settings and be like, I don't want any straight people. No. Like, I haven't been on Tinder in forever, but if I go back there, like, legit, I'm changing that setting because I cannot deal with the straights. Not in today's fucking climate. Yeah, only gays and bisexuals, please. Thank you. No, I'm dead as fuck. Find it kind of funny. Think some straight men think Donald Trump is personally gonna give them a girlfriend. Yeah, the incels are something real special. Like I don't know. Dude, America's so cooked. We're about to experience the economic heat death of the universe, like in the UK, and also fucking like the incel crisis of South Korea. Like shit's gonna go wild in the United States for the next couple of decades. Okay. Give me this box. Nice. Gold. That's a good item. Your abs, what I picture people feel when they are about to fight JoJo. For me, it's a little bit different, but you know, you paint a good picture, so I'll take it. Just gonna... Oh, okay. Well, I got somebody. It's putting distance between myself and the next guy, which is what's important. I have a green shell. I'm just gonna hold this behind me. Please do not murk me at the line. Okay. Whew. What a race. Really unlucky at the finish line. In this case, I actually got lucky near the end. Like, I didn't get hit by anything. There was a blue shell. The guy in front of me had a red shell. There was a fib on the ramp. There was a guy coming up in a bullet bill below me. Like, so many things could have gone wrong on that last turn. And, everything went more or less fine. Like, I didn't get hit. And so I was like, you know what? I'm happy with that. Earlier in the race, though, I kind of got fucked up, you know? Getting hit on the ramp on lap 1 was really bad. Hey, you know, I actually did want to mention there's some stuff in my personal life that isn't directly tied to politics. I mean, obviously everything's a little bit, but since the campaign was done and whatnot, and I had gotten to I had my first day of work. I'm going to work this weekend as well. I've had a chance to actually go back to the food bank, which was great. It was a really nice experience. I missed all the folks that sort of frequent that the main food assistance center, and it was real nice. I just went there one afternoon and or actually yesterday afternoon, I went there and bagged chicken for a couple hours, you know, or rather I sealed the bags. You know, other people were putting the chicken in the bag, and then I had to seal the bag with the heat sealer, and we just kind of shot the shit for a couple hours and caught up on what we'd all been doing. Aha! Travis, if you know it's good for you. Okay, never mind. Damn it. Some people have no soul in this game. Oh, I know where I want to use this. Okay. Probably going to use it here. Yeah, that might have been the best place to use it. Because the shock happened just there. You know, believe it or not, I'm really looking forward to going back to the food bank next week. There's a bunch of really nice people there. When anyone ever talks about souls, I like to say I have no soul. I don't, like, mean it when I say, you know, anything about having a soul. I mean it in the sense of, like, come on, you know, that's cheap as hell or whatever. Because usually the etiquette is, like, okay, yeah, you gotta veer into the wide line to not get hit by the guy in a star behind you. But he just, like, took advantage of both things. Just like, you fucking scummy bastard and whatnot. You know? You get weird ideas when you say food bank? What your place looks like? What? What weird ideas? It's just like a warehouse where food packaging happens, but on like a volunteer nonprofit basis. What does the food bank look like? Well, like I said, it's kind of like a warehouse, you know? There's a big garage area, and then right next to that, there are a couple of like kitchen areas. And there's like there's a freezer, like an ice box. I remember right before the election campaign really started heating up, the last time I went to the food bank before this, they just put me in the freezer for 2 hours. You know, what part of the process of bagging chicken is you have to get the boxes that the chicken comes in, because you know you get the raw chicken in bulk, and you have to actually cut the bags open, like, that are in the boxes, so that you can put chicken in smaller bags to then be, like, individually distributed to people. But you have to do all that, like, in the refrigerated environment. So I was there in a fucking... I was in my t-shirt and shorts in 36 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 2 degrees centigrade. Or, like, maybe 3. For 2 hours. How much you want to bet when they say illegal immigrants, they just mean all immigrants that they can get away with? Oh, they've said this. They've admitted, to varying degrees, Republicans have admitted that they don't actually care whether somebody is an illegal immigrant or not, because, as I've said on numerous occasions, it is the view of both the nation state and the fascists that all immigration is illegal, and therefore there can be no such thing as a legal immigrant, because the very nature of a nation state is one that criminalizes movement. You know, that's why borders exist. The existence of a border, in the sense that we have it now with armed guards, only serves to criminalize the people, like, who seek to come here. You know, so it was like, yeah, it was kind of obvious that, like, they always just meant all immigrants. It's only a matter of time before one of them screams, "No, I'm one of the good ones. I have the papers." They've already said that. There have been immigrants. There have been, or not immigrants, interviews with, well, yeah, immigrants, but people who have since obtained citizenship and who voted in the 2024 election. Basically, immigrant Americans who voted for Trump, and they've been, like, you know, it's just been them trying to rug pull behind them, like pull up the rug and the bridge behind them and whatnot. To screw over other immigrants, and all of them say, like, yeah, but I'm one of the good ones. You know, they didn't mean me when they were talking about that stuff. You know, that's like, we've already seen that. So, I hate the philosophy if I'm one of the good ones. It's a poison in history. Yeah, clearly they haven't learned about the Night of Long Knives. Or they don't care. The funny -1. Probably do a couple more races. And then that'll be that. Yeah, and if if they were like, no, I'm one of the good ones, they would either say like, oh, they're not really a legal immigrant, they're an illegal alien or whatever. They would just say that. And, like, it doesn't matter. Reality doesn't matter. Because they just view all, Republicans just view all immigrants as dirty. And subhuman. And that includes the immigrants that vote Republican. They view their compatriots as subhuman. It literally will not click until it's them getting thrown in the death camp. And maybe not even then. If they actually knew reality, they wouldn't be fascists. Yeah, in a way, yes. And that is, like, that's why I harp on so constantly that, like, this is not a natural set of positions for people to, like, arrive at in such massive numbers, right? Like, the fact that every right-winger sounds exactly the same in what talking points they parrot is not an accident, and it is not natural. This is a specifically encouraged and constructed environment as a product of constant media propagandizing, that results in people adopting these ideas and these frameworks, And I don't want to take this sort of like, I don't want to adopt a noble savage sounding framework of, oh, they're being manipulated, but they are being manipulated in the sense that, like, they're being given a narrative of lies. But the main thing is just that is the only narrative that they're given. There is no other narrative. Like, no matter how patently ridiculous and false and dishonest a media narrative is, if that is the only media narrative people are ever exposed to, they are inevitably going to believe it, because what else is there to believe? That's the way that you get a mass climate of like, that's the way that you get fascism permitted on a mass basis, because that's the only narrative, because there's not, like, any willingness on the part of people who are nominally the political opponents of fascism to construct a counter narrative. I hate how media treats fascism as super straightforward in history. Yeah, they do have a blatantly counter-historical approach to discussing fascism. Like, they are... I feel like that on one part it's ignorance, and on another part it's, like, insecurity. That, liberal news media outlets cannot breach the subject of how fascist movements in the past succeeded, because how they succeeded in the past is exactly how they are succeeding now. The mistakes that liberals made in the past are one for one the actions of liberals now. Sorry, I had to move those over a little bit. Saw this funny news story in Germany where it said this is the first time the far right has won since the Nazis. Yeah, and it is. It is, because, because it was kind of inevitable that we were going to end up at this point. The narrative in Germany has only ever been fascist or fascist light in the age of liberalism, Like I said, when that's the only narrative, people are going to believe it. Doesn't matter how dishonest and slimy and wrong and full of lies it is. That's the only option that has been presented to people. How can you say that? Not realize immediately, like, oh, something went horribly wrong. I think it's one of those instances where I think they realize that something has gone wrong, but they are unable to determine what it is. This happened with actually Nancy Pelosi, of all people, was putting her finger on all of the correct problems to identify within the Democratic Party leading up to the election, but she was unable to pose a solution because she is still a liberal who is incapable of that sort of self-reflection and systemic critical thought, you know? Like, it's a lack of political imagination that stops people at realizing, like, people will realize, oh, something horrible has gone wrong, but then they panic because the political imagination isn't there to come up with how to combat it and how to not repeat that, you know? Ow. She didn't realize liberals were losing on purpose. Yeah, because she was one of said liberals. You know, she pointed out the problem that she herself was a part of. You know, she lambasted Bernie Sanders for his objectively correct take. You know, but at the end of the day, she was able to realize, like, guys, Joe Biden should have stepped down much sooner. We should have had an open primary. We should have, like, had somebody that wasn't tied to Joe Biden. We should have. All of these things are correct, but it misses the systemic point. You know? But yeah, to condense all of that into a statement. Fuck. There you go. Okay. But no, the liberals can't really offer a counter narrative to fascism because they are not different enough to offer that counter narrative, right? They fight on the same ground that fascism does. So the only narrative that can exist when the two options are liberalism and fascism is a fascist narrative to varying degrees of severity, right? And if that's all that exists, regardless of how slimy, dishonest, and patently false it is, that's what people are going to believe because they don't have a meaningful alternative narrative to go with. The Democrats were almost defined by their denial that any sort of narrative exists in politics, that any sort of consistent through line or systemic critique exists. So the Democrats were putting forward there is no alternative, and the Republicans were putting forward here is the fascist narrative. This was always going to result in this. And liberals maybe could see that the Nazis were coming back in force, but they were unable to see that they themselves were the reason that the Nazis were coming back. You know? Because to them, because to liberals in the modern times, fascism is something exceptional that belongs in the history books to be taught about as a chapter regarding World War II. The Nazi ideology to them is unique in that it is impossible to be replicated. So when it is presented right in front of them doing the exact same thing, they're in disbelief. Literally disbelief. They did not believe that such a thing could exist in front of them. But ultimately, liberalism and Nazism, or liberalism and fascism, are two fish that swim in the same pond. And even if the liberal is capable of recognizing that the other fish is predatory, it is incapable of seeing that they are in a pond. Funny that Palpatine failed because of his stupid ideas projects. Yeah, I mean, dictatorial pet projects do tend to be like the downfall of some dictatorships because they cripple them economically, which leads to workers getting really fucking mad because their wages are getting depressed over some shit that does nothing for anybody except for, like, stroke the dictator's ego. He's like, I want to build a giant building that shoots lasers. Yeah, he was like, I want to invent nuclear missiles too. The sequel to nukes. I want to have the power to blow up a whole ass planet. I want to build a giant building that shoots lasers at my political opponents. Thank you. Meatball Ron DeSantis will be in shambles when I complete the Trump star. It will trump all opposition. You see what I did there? It's very, very clever, if I do say so myself. I'm not warmed up for the Trump impression right now, so it's not at its peak. So, but nobody else is live on a Friday afternoon. I guess people got better shit to do. Anyways. Is it funny that in a weird way, game theory predicted the first win of Donald Trump? People sleep on how smart MatPat is. So if anything, that raises my eyebrow. I honestly, you have given me an idea for a content react that MatPat fucking predicted the first Donald Trump victory. I actually kind of want to look at that now. I'll write that shit down. But no, it seems that nobody else is live. It's a little bit shorter stream than what I consider to be my usual stream length. So no raid this time, and I'll be back soon. I don't know if that means Sunday or Monday or what. I'll see you guys later. It sucks that I wasn't able to record the other Hot Wheels games, because I guess OBS and full screen game applications don't quite mesh well together, especially ones that are that old. So anyways, see ya.